Hey, soldiers, you're not being given the whole story on unemployment. We're seeing rising prices for groceries, so much so that, can you believe some people are taking out loans to buy groceries? And the energy crisis is starting to rear its ugly head. Now, it's summertime right now in the northern hemisphere. Nobody's worried about heating their homes. But this is something that is going to become more of a factor as we move further into the year and closer to the cold months. Now listen, if you watch the news and you consume that sort of content, you are at a disadvantage.
Oh, I say it again. You've been had. You've been took. You've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok.
Okay, guys, let's jump into these unemployment numbers. Now, there's a lot of, excitement about the unemployment numbers that are being reported out there today. They're saying basically that unemployment has fallen. And if you look at one particular measure of unemployment, then yeah, it has fallen. However, if you look at unemployment on a more detailed, from a more detailed perspective, you get a true picture. All right, let's first take a look at the widely reported U3 measure of unemployment. This is what you hear in the news. This measure encompasses total unemployed as a percentage of the civilian labor force. This is the official unemployment rate, and it is official because it's always going to be lower than the U6 rate that is a more detailed look at exactly who's working and how they're working here in America. So what we're getting on the news, they're telling you that, hey, rejoice. The unemployment, the seasonally adjusted unemployment rate is at 3.8%, the U3 rate. Now, it's actually up 0.4%, so it's up slightly, but they're still saying it's under 4%, and that U3 rate certainly is. However, the U6 rate, which is that all-encompassing rate that I was telling you about that you don't hear reported, that's at 7%. Now, it was at 6.7% in May. It is now 7%. Now, the U6 rate is total unemployed plus all persons marginally attached to the labor force plus total employed part-time for economic reasons as a percentage of the civilian labor force plus all persons marginally attached to the labor force. Okay, so you see how that U6 brings in the total picture. I want you to also keep in mind, you need to be armed with this information. The household survey that the Bureau of Labor Statistics conducts each month encompasses 60,000 households. Okay, so this is not, a lot of people think that the calculation is performed by looking at the amount of people getting an unemployment check. That's not how it's done. The federal government takes an actual survey of 60,000 people. And you might say, well, 60,000 people is not a lot in terms of a country of 330 million. But statistically, it is one of the broadest surveys out there. So when you look at that and then you look at the U6 rate, which is the one I encourage you to look at, whenever you hear these guys reporting on the news about unemployment, they are reporting the U3 rate. Your local newscaster doesn't even know the U6 exists, more than likely. Okay, they're giving you a total of a minute, 2 minutes tops on even the most important of subjects.
A scientist mating a kangaroo with a black bear? It's a story so strange it has to be true.
Okay, so let's look a little deeper into this. All right, so we examined exactly what the true rate is, which is 7%. And again, they do that because that 7%, they don't want to talk about 7%. They'd rather talk about 3.8%. It's much more palatable. But when we also look at the number of people who are working multiple jobs, all right, we're looking at 119,000 more people working multiple jobs in June 2022 than there were in May of 2022. So that number is up. And that number is also way up over the amount of people working multiple jobs in June of 2021. So more people are finding it necessary to work more jobs in order to make ends meet. Now, if we connect that to the average wage, let's take a look at that. In June of 2022, the average hourly earnings for all employees on private non-farm payrolls rose by 10 cents or 0.3% to $32.08. Now, that's the average. And you might say, hey, well, it rose. Yeah, it did. But it came nowhere near inflation. And if we take a look at what is going on in the grocery sector, those prices are up tremendously. Grocery inflation reached a new high of 15.1%. Now, this is according to a survey that was done here by Numerator. Grocery categories most impacted include frozen meat, chips, poultry, water, milk, and milk substitutes. Just to give you some example, frozen meat was up 28%, poultry up 25%. So if you go for that other white meat and try to save a few bucks, you're not saving much. So sure, we realized a 10% increase in wages, but when we're looking at the actual items we need to, purchase, the reasons why we go to work, food is up tremendously. Beverages are the most impacted department in the grocery sector. Among the top selling categories in the grocery sector, 5 beverage categories rank in the top 10 for highest inflation. Then they go on to talk about health and beauty inflation, which is up 14.7%. The household items rate of inflation has actually slowed. Facial tissue, plastic wrap, foil, those types of things are still up, but the acceleration is slowing. What are people doing? What can you do? Well, one of the things you may want to do is join a wholesale club. Buy a freezer, join a wholesale club. Get yourself some of these things and stabilize the prices. You're going to need bath tissue. You're going to need certain toiletries. Of course, you need food, okay? Maybe there are family members that can say, hey, look, if we purchase these items as a group, maybe that will be more cost effective. You have to actually do the math. So that's a look at what's going on. Real world wages were up 10 cents, but that chicken sandwich was up well over 24%. So that's what's going on with that. Poultry was up 25% to be exact. Now, people are actually, believe it or not, starting to react to these prices by having to borrow money. 2 months ago, President Biden read off of a teleprompter, I've built a strong economy. We've built a strong economy with a strong job market. Now, we just kind of debunked the strength of the job market. A lot of these people, 119,000 people, are working 2 jobs. They said the number of employed people went up 362,000, but only 143,000 of those are working 1 job. All right. 2 months later, the cash-strapped Americans are using microloans to afford gas and groceries amid crippling inflation. There's a company out of Sweden. They're called Klarna Bank, whose bread and butter has been loans for smartphones and other consumer electronics. They've seen a flood of applications for staples such as food and gas. Now, their model is pretty interesting. I'm going to look into them because, as we discussed, finance is part of what makes the world go round. It's part of the information infrastructure of telecommunications, energy, commerce, and transportation. Now, they're providing a financial service here. They provide interest-free loans that allow people to spread payments out over multiple installments, and they make money charging retailers a small per transaction fee and from interest on longer term loans. This might be a viable option for an investment. I don't know. I'm not telling you to invest in it. I'm just stream of consciousness saying I'm going to look into it. I noticed that I could buy essentials with it and not have to pay everything up front. and it wouldn't affect my pocket as much, said Linda Cruz, a 37-year-old mother of 4 from a small town near San Antonio, Texas. Linda Cruz, a mother of 4 from a small town in San Antonio, Texas, I don't know why they repeat that, says she's purchasing a new air conditioner, but she's using it for groceries also. Okay. Meanwhile, Klarna just closed an $800 million round of financing. So people are taking an interest in them. All right, guys. So that's some of the news that's going on here. One last thing I'll hit you with. Germany, the biggest economy in Europe, the most populated country in Europe. They are planning what they're calling warm-up spaces in response to gas shortage. Now, Vladimir Putin, they have said that the Nord Stream 1 pipeline, which carries natural gas into Germany and other European countries, they've said that they have taken it offline temporarily for maintenance. Now, the big question on everybody's mind is, are they going to bring it back up? Or is this going to be Vladimir Putin's way of, striking back with regard to these sanctions? I don't know if you guys remember, but President Donald Trump spoke before the UN, and I don't remember the date, but he said that Germany was at risk of an energy crisis if they continue to allow Russia to be, if they continue to be so reliant on Russia for their energy. The German delegation laughed at him.
Germany will become totally dependent on Russian energy if it does not immediately change course. Here in the Western Hemisphere, we are committed to maintaining our independence from the encroachment of expansionist foreign powers.
They ain't laughing now. All right, so cities across Germany are planning to use sports arenas and exhibition halls as warm-up spaces this winter to help freezing citizens who are unable to afford skyrocketing energy costs. All right, so the Germans have already capitulated. Bild newspaper reveals how the nation's cities and municipalities have urged local authorities to set aside public spaces to help vulnerable citizens in the colder months. Germany has already seen its gas supply from Russia significantly restricted as a result of its support for sanctions and the war in Ukraine. We are currently preparing for all emergency scenarios for autumn and winter, said Hütte Steinruck, the city mayor of Ludwigshafen. I apologize if I mispronounced that. I'm sure we got a German subscriber or two out there. You can correct me phonetically. I would appreciate it. Anyway, nobody can say exactly how dramatic the developments will be, but they are preparing. All right, so several towns in Germany, throughout Germany, are preparing these contingency operations to help their citizens, prevent them from freezing to death, because Germany, a very technologically advanced country, cannot figure out how to heat homes and businesses with wind and solar. Okay, we're not there yet. Let's just be honest. I love the idea of renewables. In fact, I'm in love with two in particular: geothermal and nuclear. We've talked about nuclear and why it has a bad rap. You all know the history of 3 Mile Island, Fukushima, Chernobyl. But that technology continues to advance in terms of the safety factor. The other reason that I love geothermal is because the interior of the earth provides a lot of heat, okay? And no, for these people who think that this species, humans, is going to be able to deplete the energy that is present in the center of the earth or underneath the crust of the earth, which is what we live on, then you really need to do some study. Do you know that the state of Texas could accommodate all 7 billion people on earth with a few feet to spare between them. Okay. Look it up. Don't trust me. Just look it up. I know it sounds incredible, but it's real. And I use that as an example of how insignificant humanity is on this planet. Also remember, this planet has been around for 4 billion years. Billion with a B. So if you looked at the history of the Earth and compared it to a 12-month calendar, we just showed up in the last minute of, we just showed up at 11:59 on New Year's Eve. Okay. All right, guys. So please absorb this information and put it to work for you. Wholesale clubs understand what's really going on with unemployment. And also know that with that unemployment number, just one last thing, self-employment has actually gone up year over year. Okay, so there are more people out there that are starting their own businesses as an option. I think people are waking up to the realities of the global economy. Can everybody do that? Will everybody do that? No, but more people are. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon.